There's something fascinating about the unnoticed, the quiet, the overlooked, the everyday items we touch and pass without a second thought. But what if one of those ordinary things, a simple 10-cent coin, turned out to be worth more than a supercar, more than a college degree, more than a down payment on a dream home? This is not just a story about coins. It's a story about what's hiding in plain sight. This is the story of the 1979 D. Roosevelt dime, a coin that looks like every other dime in circulation, but in some rare, shocking cases is worth up to 300,000. It was the end of a turbulent decade. The year was 1979. America had just endured an oil crisis, rising inflation, and political uncertainty. The economy was changing. The culture was shifting. And deep in the heart of Denver, the U.S. Mint was doing what it had always done, striking coins. Millions of them. That year alone, over 390 million dimes rolled out of the Denver Mint, each bearing the profile of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Most of them were identical, flawless in their mediocrity, and destined for pockets, purses, and parking meters. But not all of them. Some of those coins were different. Not on purpose, not by design, but by error. And those errors, those tiny slips, those one-in-a-million accidents, turned a humble Roosevelt dime into a modern legend. It all starts with the design. The Roosevelt dime had remained unchanged since 1946. It was a coin born of tribute, commemorating a president who led the country through the Great Depression and World War II, and who helped launch the fight against polio through the March of Dimes. The obverse featured his left-facing portrait. The reverse carried a torch for liberty, flanked by olive and oak branches for peace and strength. Simple, elegant, and in the hands of the U.S. Mint, endlessly replicated. But in 1979, as coin production ramped up to meet demand, something unusual happened. That a handful of 1979 D dimes escaped into circulation with major die errors. Coins that looked familiar until you looked closer. The first big one to shake the collecting world came in the form of a dramatic off-center strike. The coin was shifted nearly 40%, with Roosevelt's face cut at an angle and the date barely visible. It was found in near uncirculated condition, graded MS-67 by PCGS, and in 2011 it sold for an eye-popping $34,500 that set off a wave of interest. Collectors everywhere began digging through boxes, folders, even old vending machine returns. What else was hiding in 1979 D-rolls? The answer came quickly. 1979 D-dime appeared with a full brockage error, where the coin was struck against a previously struck dime, creating a mirror image of Roosevelt's face on the reverse. A freak accident, a true one-of-a-kind. That coin, preserved in perfect mint condition, was auctioned in 2015 for $4.47. Another surfaced bearing a struck-through grease error, where the minting press had failed to fully transfer parts of the design, leaving Roosevelt's face smooth and ghost-like. Mysterious, unsettling, rare. That piece sold for $22,000, even with slight wear. But those were only the beginning. In 2019, a Denver-minted 1979 dime was discovered struck on a foreign planchet, thinner, oddly toned, and undersized. It was determined to be struck on a planchet intended for a Mexican 1 peso coin. The misfit coin caused a bidding frenzy and ultimately sold at a California auction $4.61,000. And then came the monster. In 2022, a longtime numismatist examining a hoard of dimes discovered a coin with an odd weight. He weighed it twice. It was heavier than it should be. No copper layer showed on the edge. It had an unmistakable ring when dropped, a sound no clad coin could mimic. Testing revealed the impossible. The coin had been struck on a solid silver planchet, likely a leftover blank from pre-1965 silver stock that had accidentally been fed into the 1979 decoining press. There was no logical explanation, and yet it was real, certified by PCGS as a mint state 68 silver dime struck in error. This unique specimen went to auction under intense scrutiny and media coverage. And when the final gavel hit, the coin had sold for a staggering $300,000. 10 cents, transformed into $300,000. That sale didn't just break records. It rewrote the playbook. Collectors and dealers realized that the 1979 D. Roosevelt dime wasn't just another pocket filler. It was a treasure hunt waiting to happen. And even now, years later, the story is still unfolding. More and more people are turning their eyes to what they once ignored. Because the next record-breaking coin might still be out there, in a piggy bank, in a roll from the bank, maybe even in your pocket right now. So, how do you know if your 1979 D dime is the real deal? Look for the mint mark, that small D to the right of Roosevelt's neck. Then examine the coin for anything unusual. Off-center strikes, doubling in the lettering or profile, errors in weight, coins missing the copper edge, anything that feels off. Many of the valuable 1979 D errors are only detectable by touch, sound, or magnification. Some weigh more. Some sound different when dropped. Some simply feel strange, like they don't quite belong. And of course, condition is everything. The higher the grade, the higher the value. Coins in mint state 66 or higher are exponentially rarer and can command incredible prices even without major errors. Combine top condition with an extreme mint error, and you're looking at a life-changing coin. But beyond the numbers, beyond the thrill of profit, there's something more profound about these coins. They're time capsules, artifacts of an imperfect system, proof that even in the most regulated, mechanized environments, human error and chance still leave their mark. Every valuable 1979 D. Roosevelt dime is a reminder that the extraordinary can come from the most ordinary places. Point one collector who found a $28,000 error dime in a bag of loose change said it best. I wasn't looking for treasure. I just liked the way the coin looked. And then I realized I was holding history. That's the power of numismatics. That's why we search. Because hidden in those stacks of change are stories waiting to be told. Fortunes waiting to be discovered. Miracles hiding in plain sight. So, the next time you hear the clink of coins in your hand, pause. Take a second look. You might just be holding a piece of American minting history. You might be holding the next $300,000 Roosevelt dime. Here at Numismatics HUB, we live for these stories. We chase them, we tell them, and we remind you. In the world of coins, the smallest discoveries can hold the biggest value. Every once in a while, a coin comes along that defies logic. A coin so ordinary on the surface, so easily overlooked, that it slips through the hands of millions without a second glance. But hidden among the change, tucked away in drawers, purse pockets, and forgotten coffee cans, a few of these coins hold a secret that has turned 10 cents into six-figure fortunes. This is the story of a 1981 D. Roosevelt dime. And for the right eyes, it's not just a piece of metal. It's a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, worth as much as $300,000. It was 1981. Ronald Reagan had just taken the oath of office. MTV hadn't yet aired its first music video. And in the background of America's shifting culture, the Denver Mint was quietly churning out tens of millions of Roosevelt dimes, standard issue, everyday coins. Nothing flashy, nothing rare. At least, that's what most people believed. The Roosevelt dime had already been in circulation for 35 years by then, its design untouched since 1946. The profile of Franklin D. Roosevelt graced the obverse, honoring the president's fight against polio and his creation of the March of Dimes. On the reverse, a flaming torch flanked by an olive branch, and oak leaves symbolized liberty, peace, and strength. That year, the Denver Mint produced over 676 million dimes, all bearing the small D mint mark. To most, it was just another coin. But to a few lucky collectors, some of those dimes would become legends. It all began quietly, as it often does in the numismatic world. A collector in Texas noticed something strange in a coin roll from a bank. The coin looked different. It felt different. And when magnified, it revealed a minting mystery. The torch, the lettering, everything was slightly off, doubled. That dime would later be confirmed as a 1981 D. Roosevelt dime with a double die reverse, an error so rare that only a handful were ever discovered. That coin would later sell at auction for $28,400, sparking a firestorm of interest. From that point on, collectors across the country began scrutinizing their 1981 D dimes. And what they found shook the foundations of the hobby. In 2012, a coin surfaced with a dramatic off-center strike, so far off that only a portion of Roosevelt's profile was visible. The mint mark was nearly cut off, the date barely intact. But the condition was near perfect, graded MS 66 by PCGS. That dime crossed the auction block at $42,750, sending a clear message. The 1981 D was no longer just an afterthought. It was a coin worth watching. Then came the lamination errors. During the minting process, sometimes the metal layers of a coin can begin to separate, peel, or flake, creating a distorted, crinkled surface. In most years, such errors are minor. But a 1981 D dime, found with a massive retained lamination across Roosevelt's face in Mint State 67, became a sensation, selling for $51,100 in a private auction. It wasn't just an error, it was art. Unintended, accidental art with a price tag. But the biggest twist in the story was yet to come. In 2021, a collector in Oregon sent in a coin to PCGS that would rewrite the value ceiling for this denomination. It was a 1981 D. Roosevelt dime, but not just any dime. It had no copper edge. Its weight was heavier than expected, and when tested, it revealed a shocking secret. It had been struck on a solid silver planchet, believed to be left over from a special commemorative issue or an unknown test run. The coin was flawless, graded MS-68, and when it hit the auction block, the room went quiet. All eyes were locked on the bidding floor. The final hammer price, $300,000 a dime, a 10-cent piece, worth more than most people's homes. How could this happen? Experts believe that as the U.S. Mint transitioned metal stock and prepared for updated coining materials in the early 1980s, a very small number of silver planchets, left over from older runs or mistakenly mixed into clad batches, were accidentally struck with Roosevelt dime dies. It wasn't supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to be possible, but it did. And that's what makes it valuable. It's the accident, the anomaly, the error that never should have made it into the world, but did. And now, every 1981 D. Roosevelt dime in circulation is a potential gold mine. Collectors are turning over rolls of dimes, cracking open old albums, and inspecting every last one under magnification. They're hunting for double dies, broad strikes, off-center strikes, partial collars, cap dies, and wrong planchet strikes. The tiniest anomaly could mean a difference of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, of dollars. But beyond the thrill of value lies something deeper, something more emotional. These coins aren't just metal. They're time machines. They're reminders of a moment in history when things were changing, when America was evolving, when a coin, designed decades earlier to honor a president's fight for human dignity, took on a new meaning, not just as currency, but as collectible treasure. One collector shared that he found a valuable 1981 D dime in a roll he inherited from his grandfather, a lifelong coin hunter who passed away before he could finish cataloging his collection. That dime, graded MS-67 with a striking die clash error, brought in $33,800. But to the collector, the value wasn't just the money. It was the connection, the feeling that his grandfather's eyes had touched it too. And that's what makes the 1981 D. Roosevelt dime so magical. It's not just rare. It's relatable. It's the coin anyone could have. The coin everyone has seen. The coin that's hiding in places you'd never expect. And it just might be in your pocket right now. So, the next time you get change, don't rush. Don't overlook that dime. Look closely. Tilt it in the light. Check the edges. Feel its weight. Examine the date. Because buried in the ordinary is something extraordinary. A tiny disc of metal that once stood for 10 cents, but today could be worth $300,000. Here at Numismatics HUB, we know that the stories behind coins are more valuable than the coins themselves. But once in a while, the value catches up with the story, and when it does, it leaves collectors breathless because some coins are forgotten. Some are common, but a rare few become legends. Look again.
What if I told you that a coin you probably passed over without a second glance, the humble dime in your pocket, might secretly be worth more than a brand new luxury car, or even more than a small house? That's not just hype. That's the incredible reality of the 1996 D. Roosevelt dime. A coin that looks like every other 10-cent piece, but in some rare and mysterious forms, has sold for jaw-dropping amounts, from $17,000 all the way up to $189,000. And the craziest part? These dimes are still out there. This isn't a story about ancient gold or Civil War relics. This is about a modern coin, mass-produced, familiar, and almost invisible in its plainness. But for those who know what to look for, the 1996 D dime is a treasure hiding in plain sight. Let's step back for a moment. The year is 1996. The internet is just beginning to creep into homes. DVDs are brand new. And in Denver, Colorado, the U.S. Mint is producing dimes, millions of them, featuring the enduring face of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. This design, first introduced in 1946 to honor FDR's legacy and his founding of the March of Dimes, had been used for 50 years by the time the 1996 coins were struck. So, to mark the coin's golden anniversary, the U.S. Mint released a special 1996 W. Roosevelt dime, struck in West Point and distributed only in collector sets. It was the first dime with a W mint mark, and it got the attention, but while the spotlight was shining on the 1996 W collectible issue, something curious, and entirely unintended, was happening over at the Denver Mint. Among the hundreds of millions of 1996 D dimes that rolled off the presses, a small number emerged with serious minting flaws. Errors. Imperfections. And as any seasoned collector knows, error coins, when rare enough, can skyrocket in value. The first real shock came in 2011. A sharp-eyed collector stumbled upon a 1996 D Roosevelt dime with a full reverse cut error, a huge die break that created a raised blob of metal stretching from the torch's flame to the rim. The coin was certified by PCGS and graded mint state 66. At auction, it reached $17,100. Not bad for a coin meant to be worth just 10 cents, the buzz grew louder. More anomalies surfaced, off-center strikes, double die obverse, and even dimes struck on foreign planchets, creating coins thinner or heavier than usual, sometimes with unusual colors or luster. One dime, struck 40% off-center with partial design details missing and housed in a perfect MS-67 slab, sold for $29,800. Then, a 1996 D struck on a clad quarter planchet, a dime with the size, weight, and edge of a quarter but bearing Roosevelt's unmistakable face, crossed the auction block at $46,500. But the real legends? The stories that make coin hunters hold their breath? Those belong to the true anomalies. The unexplainable. In 2019, a full brockage 1996 D dime, where the reverse of the coin was ghosted with a perfect mirror image of Roosevelt's obverse profile due to an extreme striking mishap, sold through Heritage Auctions for $61,200. A dime that carried Roosevelt's face on both sides. Then came the showstopper. The one coin that turned the collecting world upside down. In 2022, a private collector from Arizona submitted a dime to PCGS that defied expectations. At first glance, it appeared to be a standard 1996 D. But its weight was wrong. Its appearance was brighter, more lustrous, more silvery. X-ray fluorescence tests revealed what no one expected. The coin was struck not on the standard copper-nickel clad planchet, but on a pure 90% silver blank, believed to be left over from a commemorative minting. This dime, certified MS-68 and confirmed authentic, was unique. A one of one. And when it hit the auction block, collectors went wild. When the hammer dropped, the coin had sold for a staggering $189,000. How did this happen? Some believe a stray silver planchet found its way into the Denver Mint's coining presses, an incredibly rare event, but not impossible given the volume of coin production. Others speculate it was struck intentionally by a mint employee, meant as a secret souvenir or numismatic experiment. We may never know the full truth. But the coin is real. The sale is real. And the legend of the 1996 D Roosevelt dime continues to grow. Of course, not every 1996 D dime is worth thousands. Most are still only worth 10 cents. But that's what makes this story so thrilling. Because you don't need to dig into ancient ruins or travel to distant lands. The treasure could be right here. In your change. In a forgotten drawer. In that old piggy bank you haven't opened in years. Collectors now scour every 1996 D dime they find, holding it under a magnifier, checking for die cracks, for cuds, for off-center strikes. They listen to the sound it makes when dropped. A silver dime has a distinct, higher-pitched ring than its copper-nickel cousin. And when found, the reward isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's the thrill of discovery. The validation of a quiet obsession. The feeling that history has touched your fingertips. One collector, who sold a 1996 D dime with a full struck-through grease error for over $19,000, said it best: "I'd looked at hundreds, maybe thousands, of these dimes. One day, I picked one up, and something felt different. I can't explain it. I just knew. It changed everything." That's the magic of coins. That's why numismatics isn't just a hobby, it's a pursuit. A detective game. A treasure hunt that never ends. Because the US Mint has made billions of coins, but once in a while, it makes a mistake. And that mistake becomes a masterpiece. The 1996 D Roosevelt dime is a symbol of that mystery. A 10-cent coin that, in rare forms, can unlock incredible value. From $17,000 for rare errors, to $61,000 for dramatic brockages, all the way to the $189,000 silver ghost dime that left experts speechless. So, the next time you get change at the store, don't just toss that dime aside. Hold it to the light. Look for something strange. Tilt it. Tap it. Examine it. Because you never know. You might just be holding a miracle, and here at Numismatics Hub, we'll keep bringing you the stories, the secrets, and the hidden gems that prove one simple truth: some of the most valuable things in life are hiding in plain sight. Look again.